17th. You wanted a chance to look at them to discern whether or not there was merit in how you felt about the other two. So, that's what's open.
I'm not gonna lead it.
I really would like to see the other two attorneys, if not one of the other attorneys, invited to our meeting on the 17th. In my opinion, it's absurd to re-interview the same attorney that we're firing. And I do base that off of also what I read in the invoices that, like I said before, that was not just one attorney giving us bad advice, it was five. I think I counted 5 attorneys from several, and I paid close attention to that, like I was talking about. I actually have read Spearhoit invoices, so I knew to look which attorney gave what advice on that, and made sure to see if it was only Ross, and Ross was just one of the attorneys used in that firm. There's many attorneys used there. So I just find it really absurd. Why would anyone, if you had someone coming and doing your landscape on your house, why would you fire them and then ask them to reapply?
Yeah, come back and fix it.
Seems common sense to me.
So we have the 2 that are coming in. One of them is law, what is it called?
It's, there's Spearhoit, but it goes by Lane. What is it, Dawn?
Law. Anyway, well, so,
Lane Council.
I would like to suggest that we just invite the other 2 attorneys to come also,
I agree.
and visit with us,
Both
although
of them
they're,
are Robert.
although if I was going through the list, I would eliminate one just because I think they're very expensive. And I don't think I wanna pay that kind of money.
I don't go by that. The expense is nothing. If you go get something fixed
Well,
on
the
the car.
expense is something if you're looking
Okay.
at the budget.
Okay, but when you get a budget done, and sometimes you get what you pay for,
Well, and that may be so. So
maybe if people start using the attorney only when they need to, that's what League of Oregon City is for. A lot of the advice that I've been getting has been got from the League of Oregon City, because I call them.
well, I think it's fair to say that this last year was a pretty, rocky and divisive, and so that it's not uncommon that you would refer to your attorney to make sure that you were doing things appropriately. So I think that might be a bad year to compare, but I do believe you're correct. We need to have some guidelines about
How we go
how we
about,
go about it, how we document, what is documented, what is not documented. And, so that council gets reports back when we have information about something that affects council.
okay, so,
But that's to some degree our own fault.
And that is our own fault, absolutely, that's our own fault.
Our previous council.
I agree with you.
I think everything that we should express to the new law firm, basically, that we as a council wanna know what, everything that comes through this. You see what I'm saying?
I understand.
And everything come right back to the council, even though it's supposed to go someplace else, but we should get a copy of everything that goes through that city, or from the city to the.
So we've had these paperwork how long? We just,
Which ones? Oh,
all of them, well, not you. You've had them a long time.
We
We
got
haven't.
we got them on Friday.
Well, you
Yeah,
haven't,
she wasn't on the
I
committee.
was not with
She
you.
was not on.
so
the
you never
committee.
seen the RFPs for the rest of the term?
I just got the little.
No, it was only Counselor Carl, Counselor Gobelman, and Counselor, rest in peace, James Appa, and Counselor Judy.
So what was decided, you didn't have nothing to do, so you're
No,
the
because
same
we
as all the
asked
rest of
a
it.
sub, we asked a sub.
Yeah, we
to
asked-
look at it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
A recommendation.
And so, and you've looked over it, what is your opinion on these attorneys and why? Pick one of the attorneys and express to me how you want me to see why this is the best law firm of what you've read.
As far as questions, is that
No,
what you're asking me?
Because of what they have, what they've done, what their accomplishments are.
Oh, okay, well, I really like the, I really like the one from Springfield,
That's the one.
yeah.
Who is that?
Lee Cox.
Third Purdy,
Is it-
it was Third Purdy, Jewett,
Lady Cox and
yeah,
Yeah,
they're both from Springfield.
they're both from Springfield, so actually, those were the 2 that I liked the most, Lee Cox and Thorpe Purdy. I thought Rufus Cobb was extremely expensive, and I don't prefer to look at firms that I am getting rid of. So I just eliminated local government law. in my mind. So that's what I would like to do. We already have two that we've requested they're gonna come, there's no reason why we can't ask the others to come too. If they're interested in representing us, they'll bring somebody, probably even on the 17th. My opinion.
Well, on the pick of whatever it's done to me, I would like to go down and look at the firm. Because with experience with me, I have a different outlook a lot because of all the years that I've been involved in stuff in our city. And knowing if you ask for a mechanic to get it, you don't know, I mean, I can send you the prettiest thing you ever seen for a resume, but you know, I wanna see.
If you went for an attorney, I mean, I frankly.
I've had two of them as partners.
I don't wanna go down and look at the attorney's offices and see where they drink their coffee. But
So-
I certainly
so
would
how
like
about-
to have them come up and see me.
How about their staff? How would you like to see how they operate?
I don't know enough about attorneys to
See,
be able to say that
okay.
they're operating.
Let me
well
give you a
or
little
not.
background on me. I've got US patents. And to have a patent attorney, you go out and you look the finest patent attorney you have. You know, that's what you do. You go out and you think I want him to come to me.
Okay, if that's what you believe.
That's what I feel.
great.
We can do that on our own though.
Yeah.
Well,
We
I
can't. We can't
agree
go
with
on
him
our
about,
own.
going to the offices and looking, because
So do I.
I think you can see how professional their office is.
Yeah.
You can get a feel for their staff and how they feel as staff, how they're being treated, just how their staff works together. I think that's really important. You can also, I would be interested in seeing, who they use in staff for their billing, like if, you know.
Mhm.
So I'd really like to, really good idea, better idea of how their office operates.
So
and
we
how
run
that-
into the same problem then is do you send a few of you down there to look at them? And then will all of you trust what the few say?
So I wanna tag on what she's saying. There's also, when you go into the firm and you see what type of staff she's using, that also plays on what you're paying for their cost, what type of law clerks they're using.
Well,
If
as
they're
far as
using-
I, because I know they listed how much their law clerks
Yes.
charge. So you know that if a law clerk is doing something, you're gonna get rated at this, but
Yeah.
then are you gonna interview the law clerks to see what quality they are?
Well, you
Or
find
they
out what
have-
type of law clerks are, have they worked for judges?
Yes,
Did they just
exactly.
work for attorneys? There is a big difference when you see
So
what
are
kind
those
of
things
staff.
that you can, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, because I think, I
Well,
don't
let's-
wanna waste council's time, I don't wanna waste the attorney's time.
Yeah.
And I think we have an obligation to replace the city attorney in a prompt manner, not just let it string on forever, because this could take forever doing this. So how many of those things that you believe are important to see, can you get the information by asking appropriate questions? I mean, it may be that, yes, you do have to go down there,
Well, some of those
to
questions
answer
can be asked when they present to us, but
okay,
knowing their law clerks and having information about their law clerks is important, because some of those law clerks, they work for different judges who rule on different things. They all have different experiences that they bring into that practice and a lot of
That's gonna
times
help
law
us.
clerks are your people that are going to be doing the actual
okay.
work
Yeah.
and your
Bobby's right
some
on
of your
that.
research, so they are important, very important aspects.
I agree with both of you, because this is something that's so important. We don't wanna go down this road again.
There's no guarantee we won't, but
No.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, but we
do our
don't
best
know.
not to.
Yeah,
So we have them coming on the 17th. I think,
two of them, yes.
can we agree that we wanna just invite, we can
Invite-
open the invitation? We actually talked about that in open
Yeah.
session
We did.
already. Do we agree we wanted them to
we would
extend the
like to-
invitation?
But see, I don't think they're gonna be able to make the same date, remember? Maybe
Well,
we have to have
There
a-
There's
was
no
a
harm in
question
asking.
about,
Yeah.
Did-
But if we could go on our own time of no more than 3, just like we looked at the invoices, and we be sure that we stay off council topics and we go into their office, and obviously I myself would call and make an appointment and let them know I'm with the city council of Oak Ridge, and I'm just coming in to just talk to them. Maybe Bobby and Dawn, or whoever, 3 of us or 2 of us could go together very simply.
yes.
Because everything Bobby's saying is right on the money about learning about their staff and their law clerks, and that'll save us actually in our fees.
I think the more important thing I would like to know is how did the cities that they served feel about their term?
Have you checked that?
I
That's
highlighted
why I
that.
just asked.
No, but that's why we've had this document for about a whole week.
They've listed their references, and so as we interview them, those will be some questions to ask. That's it.
So what if we put a deadline? want to go interview on their own, under a quorum,
So
and
I have a
interview.
question, is that even appropriate?
Or
Yes,
Is there
then
any
we do
reason?
that.
I know you believe it is, I'm asking the question,
Yeah,
you know, is it appropriate, and is there anything that we might run into that we might be stepping over the line? I don't wanna get us in trouble.
I don't think it's inappropriate,
Okay.
and obviously, as long as it's not a quorum.
Right.
I just remind you, you have Thursday night, January 17th, you have a work session, February 7th, and then your next regular council meeting on February 21st. So do you want to consider making your attorney decision on February 21st? Which means you need to have all this done before then, the week before.
So can we, direct the city administrator to call the other attorneys and see if they're available the 17th, and if they're not available, can we quickly set up a time for them to come?
I thought that was done in the last meeting.
What?
Me too.
So,
It was done in the last meeting that we had a council meeting.
That's what I understand.
and we wanted to wait until after this meeting to determine what you all wanted to do. So, the other question I have, and I'm gonna ask Gary Carl, do you know if any references were called on the, when you met as a subcommittee? Were any of the references called?
No. I asked James Affa to call a managing partner of each one of the firms that we had selected. And the selection committee was Judy, James Affa, myself, and Louis. And we selected 7 firms. And I asked James to follow up with the managing partner of each one of those firms to make sure that the firms had received the RFP.
Oh, okay. You were
And,
looking to
and
see-
3 of them had not received the RFP. And that's, you know, when I brought that up to Louis, he was insulted and said that he personally sent them out, and by golly, they got them. And I said, well, that may be, but
So
would you
we
please
sent-
send them again? And so he did send them again. And we checked again and made sure that all the firms did in fact receive them. And then one firm, and I don't know which one, got their RFP back one day late, and Louis wanted to exclude them.
Right.
And I thought that was really wrong, because, you know, they hadn't gotten them in the first place, at least they said they hadn't. And so then Louis, or the council said, let's hear from all 4 of them.
I believe one of the people that we didn't send an RFP to was Elco.
We don't have one yet.
Right. We did not sell.
We didn't send one to Elco at all,
No.
and they are more than willing to be our attorney.
Yeah, but
Maybe, you know,
Can we just send an RFP out to Elco too, and invite a response?
that's late edge.
Yeah, I think that wouldn't work because we've already passed that deadline.
Okay.
Besides, they're not a law firm.
And we have to reopen the RFP process to do that.
Well, because it was an invitation RFP, it wasn't just a general posted, anybody can apply. Could we not add them to the list?
I have it in front of me, I just want to see if it was. So the deadline for submission of proposals was 5 p.m. Wednesday, November 7th. You know, often, especially if you're doing personnel, you just say positions open until filled, but this is
Right.
pretty definite, so probably be safe, you wanna do RFPs again.
You have to really ask for RFPs. Which I hate to do, only because, it just seems, we don't need to do it. But there isn't any way we can ask for an RFP from Elco and invite them to submit.
Call them tomorrow and ask them.
Okay. I just think that would be a good idea, we'd have more to compare as well as, and then as far as these references, I'm willing to call about references,
Me as well.
and you as well. And I'm just surprised that we didn't call any of the references.
I'm curious, what was the grading process, since all of us were not involved in that? What was the process in which these were graded? How did these 2 get chosen on that?
There was a cover sheet, I
The guy
may
went
have a
in
copy
there.
of it, I may not.
Cause I don't believe
There's
I
a matrix with,
I don't believe I got the scoring process in my packet. Did anybody else? Did you? Yeah, so I was curious curious about that, cause normally in my
Yeah, I did see
experience,
it.
when you get an RFP, you grade it somehow.
Yeah, and you go by the criteria that you put out for evaluating, so, I mean, we can call this a failed search and start all over.
Maybe sometimes that's better.
If we did that, I am wondering, if we did a new RFP process, maybe we should consider having an interim attorney, like James had, Gary had suggested a couple months ago, having an interim attorney while you do a long process. That was actually his original, was his, if everyone remembers that.
That would involve terminating the contract we have, getting
Having an interim, and I believe
an
he had,
interim, and during that time, putting out an RFP, and then, to the ones that we select, not just a general RFP.
I don't know that.
Okay,
There's
What
his
do you
hands
think?
off.
Mr. Messina might be with this. Can we use temporary, could we use the city, or the LCOG's attorney and remove the one we have now?
I think you probably could.
We can.
See, so
They
maybe
can do
that,
temporary
for
services too.
right, temporary till we can find an attorney
And I-
that fits us.
Yeah, and I believe one of the attorneys that we have here also said that they would be willing to do temporary for us. I have no problem with Gary, did you have?
I did
specific?
just wanna offer that, asking for new RFPs is a tremendously bad idea, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because, there's a lot of work and time that goes into that, and you've already asked for firms to do it, and they have. And so if you want more information from another firm or LCOG, just ask them,
Okay,
Right,
rather than ask everybody to redo.
okay.
right, I think
And
LCOG.
then, as far as an interim goes, I think that's also a bad idea, because you have to get somebody, I mean, if you're gonna have an interim attorney, okay, but you have to get somebody on board that you can bring up to speed pretty quickly in case you have a bully complaint, or unless you have, who knows what could happen. You have some real estate transactions imminent, you wanna have an attorney on board that can help you do that, and, bite the bullet and do it.
So how can we do the LPOC thing again? How can we?
Well, I don't know,
Just send it out.
Mr. Messina said he could call and invite them to submit. But their, LCOG is Lane Council of Governments, it's not a law firm, they have attorneys on staff. But, whatever you want, but I would want a law firm, not,
Yes.
You would have to.
I'm staying on the work
Yeah,
for it.
that's- she works for us.
Senior Disability Services is under LCOG,
Oh, okay.
and so is the city.
I really do wish we had an RFP in here from LCOG. That is,
ask them for it. If they want to, they might,
I was just wondering if you could amend the original RFP and extend the deadline?
And so those that have already replied to it wouldn't be asked to put together a new RFP.
Yeah,
I like that.
But we can send out an amended to a few more.
Interesting now.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Just amended.
just a minute, basically extend the, take longer for us to get a lawyer. Even though these guys are coming on Thursday, get the other ones and make another date, well, maybe two more firms coming at a time, in fact, meanwhile, we can go down there and, or narrow it down like before and they go visit them.
With the hope that we'll have an attorney by the end of February,
First,
or later than that.
maybe first of March.
So
And
when,
continue to keep the attorney that we have.
Well, we can't, we just can't be without an attorney,
so when the other RFPs went out, how long did it take to get them back? Does anybody know?
Well, we gave them a certain amount of time, we gave them,
But how long did it take for them to respond?
Well,
I'm
they
just
had to
asking,
respond by a certain time.
a deadline.
well,
Yeah.
I know, but I'm asking because we're thinking about amending the RFP And I don't think we wanna put a date in if that's what we do, but we have a short timeframe that we wanna get this accomplished by. So how long can we expect before we're getting a response?
So if
Rather
we gave them
than-
30 days, it would put us way past the end of February. We'd rather just do that, so that probably isn't gonna suit, at least I don't believe it would suit our purposes. I don't wanna wait that long to get this done. I think it needs to be done sooner than that, and we need to move forward. There are a lot of other things that we need to be dealing with and not this. Not that this isn't important. I know it's important. And, I don't wanna make light of that, so, see, I think they asked that we have Mr. Messina call the other two firms and see if they can attend,
Thursday night.
and, also, call Elcott and see if they would like to submit an RFP. They could.
Yeah, sooner the better, because, you know, like, we March, even April before.
We can ask, and we're not gonna amend the RFP.
Oh.
Yeah, so we can amend it. But we can ask, Mr.
Speak up, I can barely hear you.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and you're sitting right there, I'm getting lower and lower, that we asked Mr. Messina to go ahead and make those calls to the two firms that we haven't scheduled, to see if they would like to attend also, as well as reach out to LCOG to see if they are interested in providing attorney service. However, yeah,
What do you think, Bob?
I'm waiting for it.
I just,
wanna
Well, you have,
I'm just trying to roll it around a little bit, because
What's
I'm
that
just looking at some of the timeframes we're setting, and I'm wondering how that's really going to fit in.
well, I think if you can have a phone call conversation with LCOG and explain that, you know, we really are interested in considering them, and that we have a time of a quick turnaround, to consider them. If they would like to submit, that's fine,
And if not,
and if not, then that's fine too, we won't, you know. But that, I think we've kind of done that. I think it's a good thing. I was shocked at how much paperwork we got from all the attorneys explaining how good they are. Wanting to think, oh, references,
yes,
so we need to determine what questions we'll ask if we're gonna call on references. And use the same questions for each attorney. So perhaps we can ask a couple of the counselors to put together a list of questions that seem appropriate. And, I'd like to get this done as soon as we can, so those reference questions, because we need to call the references of those that are coming to see us, which I think is odd that we haven't already.
yeah, by Thursday, I think.
Mayor, if I can,
Yeah,
I think it's also very important that council come Thursday night with questions for the firms that are giving the presentations. There's a lot of, been discussion over the billing and over the general legal services. Those are the people that you need to be asking some of these questions about. So be prepared to ask questions. I told them they had a few minutes for a presentation, tell us about your firm, tell us about your municipal experience, and be ready to answer questions.
okay. Is it wise, you think, for council to all send questions to you that we have, that we will have a list of them, or should we just all formulate our own
I think
and
it's
just ask?
just ask your questions.
Okay.
Also on that same night,
No, go ahead.
also on that same night, isn't the engineer gonna be there?
City engineer.
And I think it's real important for all these counselors that's gonna be there to ask some questions about the engineer. And when you look at the budget, and everything that I understand, everything I look at is the budget. I put the budget hat on, being on the budget committee for so many years. And so when I look at the budget and I see how much money's been spent, and where did it go, and what do we got for what we spent? And that's why, to me, as an engineer we have, which, and I hate to bring it up, let's say history. I watched it with the library, you know, and I watched the situation, we had problems with the library and what was going on with the engineer. And then I look at the road down there when we did that, and I see problems, and then in reading stuff that I see in the billing, where I see all the billing about Salmon Creek and how much money we spent underneath the river, which there's a lot of questions to be asked. And I know it's a lot for this council to understand what there is going on, but somebody needs to do some homework and figure out these real problems that we have with our water and where it comes from, all the money that went to this engineer. And that's very, very important to me.
So the engineer's coming not to defend his position, but he is coming to talk to us
He
about the
doesn't know.
current projects.
Right, he
That-
doesn't
yeah,
know.
About the current projects that we have going, so that we can all gain an understanding of what the city is moving forward with, how the city engineer works with all of that, and get a beginning under. We are not gonna learn all of this at one time,
No.
so we have to take it step by step, and I think the first step is to understand what the city is involved in right now, what the city engineer is working on and how he works on it. Ask what the timeline is for those projects that are currently moving, forward. And then, of course, ask about the overages or anything else that we need to, determining whether or not our city engineer is the right fit for us right now, and may not be the conversation we wanna have this. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have a conversation, but maybe not this next
Well,
meeting.
maybe if enough points were brought, maybe that can be tabled before we do any decision with that engineer.
Well, we're not making any decisions
Not
with
here.
the engineer
Not here, I know
on
what the
the
meeting.
17th.
Right, but we're gonna hear what he has to say, correct?
Yes, we're gonna hear
Okay.
what he has to say about the projects that are
That he's
ongoing.
doing. So, in his projects, I've had another engineer on my own, a state engineer, look at some of the projects that the city has, and I would like to go with you, or anybody, Mr. Messina, or anybody, and we need to listen to it's not gonna cost us anything to listen to this other engineer, and I have invited him to be there on that night to listen, not to speak, to listen.
Okay,
And the reason I'm saying is to that, because I want him to say his spiel to me as a counselor, and I want somebody sitting in the audience that really understands the engineer or what is going on, because I already laid out a lot of stuff for him and showed him documents and stuff that I have of this water project and the prior water project.
okay, well, and as I said, I think that's a different conversation, but, that's
But that is that
entirely
night.
up to you to do. If that's what you want to do. Just remember that as a city councilor, any information that you gain on behalf of things that we are determining, you need to share with all of the council.
Absolutely. Well, since we're bringing that up,
Yeah.
maybe we need to share a lot of stuff that the other night in the meeting, when I sat there in the meeting and I watched people putting notes back and forth, that kind of bothered me.
What meeting?
In the
Council meeting you were in.
notes
So
back.
when I watched Kevin Goldman write on a piece of paper and slide it to Rick, and Rick answered and put it back.
Well, they're not counselors, and.
Right, but staff, when they're doing that, writing in front of Mr. Messina or you or anybody else, and you write a note, is that not public record?
If
So
staff
maybe-
has accepted it at
so-
a council meeting, then yes, it becomes public record.
So if I was a counselor sitting in that room, and just like when the texting that used to go on, and I'm so glad that everybody wasn't texting the other day in this meeting, I'm very glad for that, because any documents that I see from now on, if I see somebody texting a staff, I'm gonna ask to see what's on it, because that's my right as a counselor and us as a body.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Karen?
May, just a moment, I would like to return to what Kevin said about assessing the ethical conduct of our attorney, and you're absolutely 100% right, that's the way to do it. But, my opinion is, if you're gonna terminate this lawyer anyway, just let it go. Let bygones be bygones, and let it go. Personally, I think he acted unethically, but, I could be wrong.
Is it ethical for us to let it go?
Yes.
Yes,
No,
yes,
no.
oh yeah.
For the good of the-
But if you make an ethical complaint, you're going to have to give evidence, you're going to have to testify, you're going to open up a can of worms, And if you're gonna terminate this attorney, and if you are gonna terminate the attorney anyway, then my suggestion is just let it go. If you're thinking about, well, maybe we wanna keep him, then,
That's a different-
that's a different story, and I would like to make a case to you all to show you where and how I believe he acted unethically. But if he's gonna be terminated, bygones are bygones, and let's move on. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
We're ready to go on to the next topic.
I think.
Yeah.
So, before we move on, I just wanna look at our dates, so, sometime starting tomorrow, Phil's going to send an RFP to Alcon, right?
Yes,
And see if they wanna present.
yes.
And then on the 17th, the, attorneys will present us at our council meeting, and we'll have the opportunity to ask questions.
Mhm.
When we ask questions, I think it's important that we don't go and start asking specific questions to the billing at our council meeting. So I think it's important that we refrain from that, and we agree that that's something that we wanna do. And in between the 7th, or the 17th and then the 7th of next month, it sounds like we'll be, a couple of us will meet and develop some reference questions, and then Kathy, you'll call for the references and follow up on that.
Sure.
And that's gonna be all the attorneys,
Okay.
right, that will be presenting?
Yes.
Okay. And then, for the 7th, we have a work session, so at that point, then we can discuss the attorneys and what you found in the references and, what we felt we learned from our meeting.
Mhm.
And then we can make our decision on the 21st.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want help doing the references, or are you gonna be able to do all that on your own? Cause that would probably be 5 attorneys, cause I would guess 10.
We'll just probably ask for help.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can help.
Well, I don't know if that'd be applied. So if they,
Well-
I think if they don't come and present to us,
Then
then
you're
we
not
don't know
gonna
to
call
call the
the
references, so we don't even know if they
Right, right.
will present, and one of them that will be presenting, we've already excluded.
Well,
Have
we
we
may
exclude-
exclude, we can't.
Is it one of them our current attorney?
But we can't
We
exclude
can't
them
exclude them.
now.
Yeah.
We can exclude them on the council meeting on Thursday when they're supposed to be there, cause we would have to make a motion to exclude them. And that cannot be done tonight,
No.
because they
No,
made a
no, I'm
motion.
not talking about tonight, though.
No, but if we choose, if we felt that we didn't wanna interview that attorney, we can't make that decision here. And they've already been asked to come. So if we wanted to
I
make
was
that
talking
decision.
about the references, and you'll spend a lot of time with the
Oh, okay,
references.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm sorry, I
if
thought
you're-
you meant then.
So that's one attorney you're not going to wanna call and get references
Correct.
for. So that's when we exclude one more. So we have essentially one attorney, the other two that may or may
May or
not,
may not show
we
up.
don't know.
Yeah.
And Alcon is still a maybe.
May or
so,
may not come to.
And then I'm willing to help develop questions also.
Okay. So,
I'm also willing to send the questions to you.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, because we need to have a standardized set of reference questions.
Yeah, would that be okay if all counselors maybe sent questions to you
To
and
Mr.
us
Messina.
Mr.
to
Messina.
Brim, and then all the 3 of us get together and
And
Do
review
reference
these questions, we can do that.
We can do that.
would
So
that be,
send all the
okay,
questions, for reference calls
to him?
to Mr. Messina. Then we can review them, formulate which ones we do, so that we're doing the right thing and asking each one the same questions. So we won't be in violation of
Yes.
whatever that law is.
Perfect.
Okay,
Um,
sounds good.
so,
Okay, so my next question, I'm sorry. So if there are attorneys that cannot make it to the 17th meeting, when would we interview them? Because the next council meeting wouldn't be until the 21st, and that's when we're supposed to be making a
I
decision.
think they could come to your February 7th workshop.
Okay?
You just wouldn't be able to make a decision till the 21st.
But as
But
we
we
should,
should interview.
so, thank you.
um,
Has the horse been beaten?
I think so. I think he is.
Well, I can go on a lot more.